And now to, of course, my bucket list moment. I was able to sit down with Secretary Kennedy on and kind of talk to him about the MAHA revolution at Health and Human Services and what that looks like. And it just yesterday morning, I'm like on the way to go set up with our crew and figure out, how we're going to set up. And I'm looking and I see a headline pop up on my phone, major restructuring happening at HHS, mass layoffs or terminations, however you want to call it. And so I'm like, oh, well, I have to ask him about this. What does this mean? What does this restructuring look like? And here was his response. Watch. I just earlier this morning, you announced that you are totally restructuring HHS. What does that new structure look like?
Well, what we found over there is we have a sprawling bureaucracy that has all kinds of redundancies and a lot of administrative costs, and much less an emphasis on actually mission, which is gold standard science, patient care. And during the Biden administration, the budget of HHS went up by 38%, and the amount of employees increased by 17%, and all of the metrics of public health actually accelerated downward. We need to reverse that. And so we had, I came in, we have over 100 communications departments. We have 40 IT departments, 40 HR departments.
Like, that's nuts.
And on and on. And we are going to consolidate those. It's
about damn time.
The agency is a $1.9 trillion agency. It's completely impossible to govern. It's impossible to inspire. It's impossible to have a unified mission that everybody wakes up in the morning and says, my job is to make America healthy again. These different agencies, divisions were living in silos, and sometimes they devolved into kind of fiefdoms where they were at war with each other. So I found out that medical information that is collected by one silo, they then sell it to the other groups in my agency, instead of sharing it and saying, how do we use this in a way to improve patient care? How do we use it in a way to make people healthy? We're cutting down 28 divisions into 15. We're eliminating the redundancies. We're streamlining the agencies. We're going to lose we're going to go from 82,000 employees to 62,000.
Which is still too many in my opinion.
To cut the scientists or the frontline providers or the people who have core responsibilities for protecting human health.
So, hearing that, I know it was a little bit longer of a clip, but it really is shocking when you hear how much they have grown, how much the bloated bureaucracy grew just under Joe Biden. And then to have we have 40 IT departments? I'm like, are you kidding me? And they don't communicate with each other except when it's to sell.
Impossible. Look how big they are.
I know.
It's impossible for them to be on one accord. They just quite literally cannot do it. And that's the danger of government, like in general. It never, if you want to make the argument that with this administration, you have got some scaling back of it, that almost never happens. Mm-hmm. It hasn't happened up until this point. Each agency that exists expands. Yep. Under each administration, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the reason is more economic than it is anything. They're not playing with, he said almost a $2 trillion agency. That's insane. If I'm asking that question and I hear that, smoke's coming out my ears, also like, what do you mean one agency has that much money funneling through it? That's insane.
It is, but like you could forgive it if we were the healthiest country in the entire world.
The most healthy, athletic.
We had all these soldiers that were, all of these athletes, and everyone was fit.
Best food.
Yes, and it's like, we're spending that much. We're spending that much to be one of the sickest first world countries out there. That's insane.
Sure. Yeah. But you know what they're doing with this? And I know you said what you were remarking earlier on about budget is that what they're doing is even in this instance, they're buying votes.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. Because if you are part of a bloated bureaucracy,
you're right.
When are you ever going to vote for the person that's going to cut that bureaucracy if it means you're going to do yourself out of a job? Like, they're not stupid.
That's why it will continue to grow. That's why
that's why it keeps going and going and going. And as far as the communication side of things, which, because you mentioned the one, but you didn't mention the communication. Why? Why do they need communication? Right? Because that's the most important thing to them is to put lipstick on a pig and put it out there. Nobody knew that. You ask our viewers, did you know that there was that much of an increase? Nobody knew.
No.
It wasn't even spoken about.
No.
Yet there it is, massive spending. Again, if it grew by 38%, like you've got a bunch of votes there. That's the other reason why they keep going on about turning Washington, D.C. into a state that can vote, right? Because then they would get another load of votes, wouldn't they? Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to vote for a Republican in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. It's not going to happen, right? So it's all, this is the way that they operate.
Yeah,
that's all they do. And they're bringing in ideologues, and they're never gonna. They're not doing the actual mission. They're not focused on what they're actually meant to be doing. Like the Department of Education has nothing to do with education.
Right.
This has got nothing to do with healthcare.
Right.
And it's absurd. It's massively inefficient. But again, like I said, we need to see how they are peddling influence. This is what it's about. It's same USA idea again. It's about peddling influence and funneling money through. It's the biggest money laundering scheme in history.
You bring up a fantastic point about the whole buying of votes. I think that's government in general, because anytime you start to threaten like the government as far as downsizing, you get all these people talking about, well, unemployment's going to go up. All these people are going to be out of jobs and all this. Obviously, we here would be like, fantastic. If you're worth a damn, you have any skill set, you'll be able to last out there in the private sector. But that's why our government just continues to grow. And oftentimes, not oftentimes, almost any time, you're not going to get with Linda McMahon. And that's the type of situation that you have to be under. Like someone that is very accomplished. I have absolutely nothing to lose. I'm up there in age, like whatever. I'm okay with this department not exist. I'm the last secretary.
I told her that. I was like, you've got to be the first government, secretary that wants to work themselves out of a job.
Yeah, that almost never happens. It's actually remarkable that it happens. And this is what I was saying about Cash, what I was hoping that he wanted to do, right? Go in there with the idea that, look, whatever the FBI was supposed to be doing, it's not doing that. Right. How about this? We're going to get rid of it. And if there's something else that needs to kind of sprout up, then let it happen. Yeah. But this agency right now is too corrupt. I'm going to be the last one in. That would be preferable for almost all of these.
I was going to say, like, which one can you say actually does their job?
That's a good point.
Anymore.
That's a great point.
Even the military that most people would say,
wrong.
All the government is full of crap, like IRS. I mean, you could go through every one of them.
Not wrong.
But the military's great, right? No, it's not. No, it's not, because now the military is funding transgender surgeries. It's doing this, it's doing that. It's not lethal. It's not about being a meritocracy anymore.
Well, listen, they're doing a lot to change that already. But to your point,
they do. You have to do with every single element of government.
He's not wrong.
Like even the ATF. If you look at the ATF, Brandon Herrera was like, "Get me in, so I can shut it down."
Yeah.
Like that's what everyone's saying, because they've had massive mission creep, because it becomes about power, not about the American people.
Right.
What they should be doing is they should be servants. That's why in the UK, right, they call them civil servants. Right, is that you serve at the behest of the people, and they're not about that. It's a giant slush fund where people can make a ton of money, not work a lot, and moonlight doing other things.
Right.
It has to be run like a business. I think Elon showed that with Twitter, and I think that the same approach obviously needs to happen with government, where he proved that, hey, we were able to cut, I don't know what his percentage was. It was some crazy amount of percentage of employees that they got rid of when he first bought
it was like
80%.
80%.
Yeah, it was something nuts, and no problems whatsoever.
Right. Everything continued on as is.
Well, and also
really told him he did the right thing.
It'd be great. Like, do you remember the video where the girl like came in? She was like, "This is my day."
Those is what did social media in.
It's unbelievable. And she was like, "I take a coffee and then I stretch, then I do yoga for now, then I go for lunch." You're like,
what was the
Are you doing any work in there?
No, the answer was no, actually, as it turns out. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.